Hi, welcome. On this video, I want to take a couple minutes to talk about this issue of the picture itself within the parameters of training and the issue of control. And, when people, again, 'cause I've seen this said, from other trainers, not so much directed towards me, but, this idea about training. When people look at within the environment of training with so-called balanced trainers. Again, I get into that whole mess about what balanced training is and isn't. But beyond that, because I'm going to talk about this a little bit, the issue about the training process itself. Is it really about treating dogs like almost like slaves? Okay, people have used certain words such as that, and controlling their every move. Treating them like robots. They're in certain positions that they can't move out of. Kind of micromanaging them. Now, here's the thing to understand. This is the whole perception problem here when it comes to this issue about recognizing the issue about control and change and the motives of dogs even. And so when a dog has control, this is an important point to understand. When a dog has control already and the motives are already rotten, okay, then the picture, okay, is already a problem. Okay, the dog floating around the house, letting the dog, be a dog, as people reference it. That's problematic in the sense of change, of the fact about motives of dogs. Again, this is why the interactions that you have with the dog, nothing is disconnected. Certain interactions are very problematic because the dog is going to challenge what's reasonable as defined through the type of influence and control brought on to certain interactions by the dog owner, because the dog has control. The motives are already rotten. Okay, just understand that. So even this issue about letting a dog be a dog. So for example, other interactions where the dog could look okay in a group of dogs, and really it isn't at all. I just want people to understand that. It's about motives. So you're not going to see, nature doesn't reveal itself that way at the appearance level. See from just the perspective of what you see as being okay. Just understand that when you deal with these issues of control, this is why, again, this system's about putting all the cards on the table. But not just putting the cards on the table, okay, it's about actually reshuffling the deck, okay, reshuffling the relational deck properly. I'll get into this in a minute. But again, getting back to this issue about owners' perceptions, because this is a big deal. Again, we have a certain perception of how we perceive the dog to be, or want the dog to be. We want the dog, and again, it's not just a certain people. I want that too. I have a dog, floating around the house. I want that, have that type of interaction where the dog is not brought under control. Okay, so understand. I have a pet. I have a dog that's a pet. She's fine. Okay, because it's about right relationship. Okay, just understand that I'm in right relationship with her, and and she's already within the follower role. So one thing to understand here is about how this stuff frames up. Now, again, getting us back to this issue of training, because again, this is an important thing to understand. When you get into the actual issue of an intervention, because that's kind of like how you need to see training, is once a dog has control through the motives are sideways. And so, probably 80% of what you see is a complete deception. Okay, just understand that. This whole idea about, your state of what you want and the picture and the dog floating around the house, the truth is in the interactions that put all the cards on the table. Just understand that. So in the behavior issues. So that's not disconnected. So when you get to that point, just understand the dog's freedom, so to speak, it becomes something different. Okay, there's control issues. The motives are rotten. Okay, just be like the selfish child that, once they get to that level of almost a narcissistic level, taking them in certain interactions in the social settings is going to be a nightmare. Okay, they're not going to, they're going to be a social misfit. Okay, and so, but the thing with dogs is you're not going to see, you may not see exactly what you think you want to see within certain environments, because again, within the home environment, the dog is very much in control, and everything's going to look fine, even as the dog is connecting with you. But again, when you start to understand the issues here, And so you get back into this issue about training itself, defining training, and beginning to clean up the motives, beginning to, bring the dog into right relationship and defining that change, okay, through the methodology itself. Because here, this is the key point. There's a difference here between just, kind of enslaving the dog, okay, and treating a dog like a robot. That's not what it's about. It's about, relational change. Okay, it's the methodology itself. You watch the methodology, how I bring it online, with the various leash techniques and how that is, how that's playing out. How I call it the script, but how all the methods are speaking the language. It's temporary. Okay, it's to get to the point where the dog is back, kind of free roaming, and everything is, the picture looks the same as before, but trust me, it's totally different. Okay, the motors are cleaned up. So, but the process itself has to engage the dog that way. That's going to change the perceptions of the dog. Just understand. So this issue about someone else looking on will say, man, Dale's really working that leash, and that dog's into a certain structure through the crate and how everything's coming together. But it's about change now. The issue of control is different. Okay, the control is only temporary, so I can create change. But it's about how it comes together relationally, how it's defined through the person, so that I can get to a point of the dog being released, so to speak, from that intervention level. But then at the point where the perceptions of the dog change. Okay, just understand that. So anyway, so just understand when people, and this is the problem with so many trainers and people have certain ideas of things, they don't understand how these issues of control set up. Okay, they don't understand like from the past, the present, future tense of things, because they don't really look at the motives of dogs that way. And so don't get me wrong, you could be a balanced trainer, and this is why you could bring a dog under an issue of control in the training process, but never ever move into a point of change. So a dog continues to wear the remote collars, or you're engaging a dog a certain way in certain interactions, but you're not actually hitting the change level. That's why the methodologies, understand, it has to be it's very specific in this relational system. Okay, it speaks language and it sets up a certain way. So it's very, very different. Just understand that. Then that's why I make a distinction between, not just an idea of leadership or an idea of something. It's how the method itself has to be defined a certain way. It's got to speak language a certain way, and that's what this system is about. So the issue about, enslaving a dog, okay, that's just an idea of it. Again, some people are just putting out some sort of talking point. It's understanding the issue about control to bring the dog into right relationship. So you're dealing with the control issues and the motives themselves, okay, how those things are intertwined, how they interconnect, and then how it affects the overall decision-making process of the dog, okay. It's understanding the sequencing of how this stuff plays out. So it's only temporary. It's all about everything is a means to an end. That's important. Let's understand, when using a crate, those fade out. Using the methodology a certain way, that diminishes, okay? The language hits a tipping point and then it comes down again. So it's just like having a conversation. I'm having a conversation with the dog to say, hey, you know what? This is right. It's all about understanding the roles here. Defining the relationship. It's about what's reasonable, okay, and it's about understanding these issues of depth of that. Understand these control issues, but understanding how the method itself lines up. So anyway, just something to think about. People are talking certain ways. Just understand it's surface, okay. They're not. They're looking at a picture of things, appearance-based type of thinking, but there has to be depth here. You have to understand. So, but you talk about these balance systems and stuff. Again, I really give all of it a hard time because so often it's a road to nowhere. I mean, you really got to understand here these issues of control, the motives of dogs, how the stuff sets up. But the method itself, the methodology involved is so critical. It's got to line up properly. It's got to be very intentional with how it lines it up to make sure that you're going from a level of control and management to actual change itself. So thanks for watching.